All right, a Fox News alert. The Dow has been bouncing around as the president made some comments this morning about those very strong jobs numbers, but also there are still some fears out there about the coronavirus. It's time for our headliner from the White House. Briefing room, you see her there, Kellyanne Conway. She is, of course, counselor to the president. She joins us this morning live. Good morning, Kellyanne.
Good morning, Ed. I
mentioned, and I've got Laura Ingle here as well, I mentioned those strong jobs numbers for the president. The Dow had been down much sharper earlier in the morning, but your colleague Larry Kudlow was on with our colleague Stuart Varney on Fox Business, and all of a sudden the Dow started rising about 400 points. It went from being down 800 to being down 400. We'll see how you do on that score as you talk to us live. But in all seriousness, your colleague Larry Kudlow was talking about stimulus to the economy from the president, and he referred to cash injections. A lot of people on Wall Street want to know what that is. Can you spell it out?
Well, the president and his economic advisors will continue to spell that out, but let's just recite some facts here. We've had 35 of 39 months under President Trump's administration where we've had at least 100,000 new jobs, 200,000 in each of the last couple of months, and this is 2 months into the coronavirus, and yet our fundamentals remain very strong. In fact, since he was elected, net 500,000 manufacturing jobs, 825,000 construction jobs. That's why when the president shows up at the Fox News town hall last night in Scranton, Pennsylvania, he's warmly received, a state he won for the first time in 28 years. A Republican won Pennsylvania in 2016 because of messages like that, because Biden was bad on NAFTA, letting China into the WTO, bad economic policies. This president rebalancing reciprocal trade deals that benefit American industry, American workers, and the American economy. And you're seeing that resilience in our economy, even though the coronavirus continues to be an open question. Here in this country, the risk is very low for most Americans. We know that those who have comorbidities or compromised systems already, the elderly, 70 years and older, roughly, they are at greater risk. And all the deaths that have happened so far, about 14 in number as of this morning, are tragic, and our condolences go out to their families. But the president's swift, substantive, and resolute action at the very beginning of this, and his task force working 24/7, really has made the difference in terms of containing this in this country so far.
And he talked about that last night at the Fox News town hall. As you mentioned, we're going to get more on the coronavirus in a moment. But first, I want to talk about something he appears to be trying to clean up this morning. He just tweeted, "I will protect your Social Security and Medicare, just as I have for the past 3 years. Sleepy Joe Biden," the president writes, "will destroy both in very short order, and he won't even know he's doing it." Kellyanne, President this morning promising he'll protect Social Security and Medicare. You were there at that town hall. He said the opposite. He said that he, in a second term, would cut Social Security and Medicare, and he would cut entitlement programs. Why did he say that?
He didn't say that. He didn't say that. You're misquoting him respectfully. And when I talked to him afterwards, I said there are some articles and some Twitter traffic that says the following. And he said, no, I'm talking about cutting deficits.
But how do you do that, Kellyanne? Pardon me, you got to do that by cutting programs. Let's hear the president. We've got the soundbite, and I'll let you react.
Sure.
The economy is the best economy we've ever had. It's nothing compared to what it's going to be when the trade deals kick in.
But if you don't cut something in entitlements, you'll never really deal with the debt.
We'll be cutting, but we're also going to have growth like you've never had before.
So Martha MacCallum said right there, but you're going to have to cut entitlements to cut the deficit, and he said, we'll be cutting.
But that wasn't what he's talking about. He's not talking about cutting entitlements, and he has said that several times. Now, his press secretary put out a statement last night that that is not what he was referring to, and the president himself has weighed in on this as well. And he also talked about growth, which was important. He was talking about the booming economy. He also talked about the deficit in terms of, I loved actually his illustration that, gee, we can have a foreign country running up the hill of the White House to take us over, but hey, I balanced the budget, or hey, we really reduced the deficit. You know, he inherited a big deficit. He made very clear last night that the previous president exploded the deficit beyond anything that the prior presidents combined had done, and that this is a president that needs to rebuild the military. And that's no joke. Under President Trump's leadership, we've had 3 consecutive pay raises for our active military, and what he's done for the veterans is truly incredible. Secretary Wilk at the VA tells me 2.5 million American veterans have accessed the VA Mission or Choice Act since it went into effect in early June of last year. That's remarkable. They can access care in the private system if they can't access it in a timely, quality way through the VA, which most say that they can. So he had to rebuild the military, make sure they have literally the equipment they need, but also a pay raise so that they're better resourced and more deeply respected.
Kellyanne, we want to get to the coronavirus situation at hand. Of course, we all watched the president signing that bill today, and we've broken down the money, $8.3 billion. It's a lot. We also know he's on the move. The president heading to Tennessee to survey the tornado damage and also going to Atlanta to the CDC to address the situation. What can you tell us about those two visits? Let's start with coronavirus and the CDC.
Well, as you say, the president this morning signed the legislation as only a president can do, $8.3 billion, overwhelmingly bipartisan, practically unanimous, at least in the House. So that shows Congress can come together when there is an issue such like this. That funding will go in part to help develop the vaccine. We had the pharmaceutical companies here earlier in the week, and I think those would-be competitors were great collaborators in the cabinet room open press event. You covered it, others covered it, where they are talking about therapeutics, helping those who already are infected. That will come more quickly, and then the vaccine over time will come, and they're going as speedily as they can, as safely as they can, obviously. In addition, the states, I think that CDC has a state grant formula based on population as to how those monies will be divvied up, and then the states can decide where their greatest needs are. And that's very important, because you look at a state like Washington, where the vice president was with the Democratic governor there, Jay Inslee, yesterday, in a big bipartisan moment everybody should look at. Washington's obviously been the hardest hit with the deaths, particularly in and around that nursing home. So that's an example. They will assess what they need to do with that money versus another state that maybe has no cases.
Important steps. Kellyanne, last question. We've got about 30 seconds. We don't want to forget our fellow Americans in Tennessee. The president is going there to show his support. Got 30 seconds. What is the administration? What message do you want on that today?
Well, the president has been on the scene literally with all these natural disasters throughout the course of his presidency, obviously hurricanes, tornadoes, and the like. And he said this week, he told us, I want to get to Tennessee as soon as I can. And of course, has been in touch there with the governors, the first responders, and the governor and the others in Nashville. I was really compelled this week when you saw reports on every network where a reporter would be standing there and saying, I'm standing where a house was yesterday. I'm standing where a family was trying to get safe passage in a bathtub. So we will be there, and we will be there obviously to mourn the dead and to comfort their families. And we will also be there with the funding that is necessary, as this president has come through with that in historic ways throughout his presidency when tragedy has struck.
A lot on the agenda, and I'm noticing the Dow is only down about 400 points. So it got a little bit better after you started talking about the economy as well.
Well, the jobs report is explosive, always beating expectations, because remember, other networks are predicting recession. They're in regression. There is no recession. The jobs numbers are incredible.
Thanks for coming in. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Great weekend to you. Take care.